Hey, hello everybody. It's me, Ed McKinley from Massachusetts, and this is a little early for me to be out on a Thursday with the Thursday edition of a live stream, studentloanjustice.org, on February 18th, 2021. And I am going to be a little bit short and sweet and to the point tonight, and I really hope that enough people will take the time necessary to listen to what I have to say. I think it's important, and I hope you will too. The hot button news right now, and frequently commented on and being driven on our Facebook page, is relative to President Joe Biden, or who I like to call Joe Biden, and the statement that he delivered at his town hall on CNN on, I think it was Tuesday evening. And if any of you are not familiar with what I'm talking about, it's about 4.5 minutes. I'm going to play it here now, and I'm not going to spend much time dissecting it. Bullshit generally stands on its own, and this is no exception. But I think it's important for people to hear it, and I think the response was not favorable to our cause. I think you probably already know that. But I'm going to talk about the underlying dynamic of what's happening, underlying the remarks that Joe Biden delivered on Tuesday evening, and I think people here need to hear this. But first, I'm just going to take a moment to play some drivel from the president.
Student loans are crushing my family, friends, and fellow Americans.
Me too.
The American...
Sorry, I just had to stop there for a moment. Because I really do. I mean, there are a few things here that do kind of get me on a personal level.
And student loan forget.
When she says student loans are crushing a lot of people, could you hear Biden in the background interrupt her and say, "Yeah, me too"? Like, okay. So I'm not going to interrupt anymore. I get stuck on that comment when the president says, "Yeah, me too." Like, he relates to all of you out there. Like, he fully understands what it's like to be in your shoes. And well, whatever. Let's play this.
This beyond the potential $10,000 your administration has proposed. We need at least a $50,000 minimum. What will you do to make that happen?
I will not make that happen. It depends on whether or not you go to a private university or a public university. It depends on the idea that I say to a community, I'm going to forgive the debt, the billions of dollars of debt for people who have gone to Harvard and Yale and Penn and schools my children. I went to a grade school. I went to a state school.
Okay, I lied. I'm sorry. That's another one I have a real hard time with. I'm not going to forgive billions of dollars in debt to people who went to Princeton and Yale and Penn. I don't need to say anymore. Okay. I'm going to try and get through this. It's only a few minutes, so please listen in. And, all right, here we go.
But is that going to be forgiven rather than use that money to provide for early education for young children who come from disadvantaged circumstances? But here's what I think. I think everyone, and I've been proposing this for 4 years, everyone should be able to go to community college for free. For free. That costs $9 billion, and we should pay for it. In the tax policies we have now, we should be able to pay for it. You spend almost that much money as a break for people who own racehorses. And I think any family making under $125,000 whose kids go to a state university they get into, that should be free as well. And the thing I do in terms of student debt that's accumulated is provide for changing the existing system now for debt forgiveness if you engage in volunteer activity. For example, if you're teaching school, after 5 years you'd have $50,000 of your debt forgiven. If you worked in a battered women's shelter, if you worked, and so on. So you'll be able to forgive debt. Thirdly, I'm going to change the position that we have now to allow for debt forgiveness. This is so hard to calculate, whereby you can now, depending on how much you make and what program you sought, you can work off that debt by the activity you have, and you cannot be charged more than X% of your take-home pay, so that it doesn't affect your ability to buy a car, own a home, etc. Each of my children graduated from school. I mortgaged the house. I was listed as the poorest man in Congress for, not a joke, for over 30 years. And but I was able to borrow. I bought a home I spent a lot of time working on, and I was able to sell it for some profit. But my oldest son graduated after undergraduate and graduate school with $136,000 in debt after working 30 hours a week during school.
I can't finish this. I can't do it. I was going to play the whole statement. It's only about 4.5 minutes long. I can't do it. I can't. It's just, there's really no reason to do it. You know, when Joe Biden, or pretty much any politician out there, begins to speak about, particularly about this topic, I've gotten kind of to the point where, you know, it's like being on a Peanuts episode, where mostly what I hear is wop 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 wop, and it's about it. It doesn't mean anything, really, not on face value, and that's what I'm here to cover and get my butt out of here because I'm supposed to be somewhere. This, on face value, is an example of a president of the United States taking a big, fat, giant deuce on us. It's not a big surprise. This isn't the first time. It probably won't be the last time. Get used to it if you haven't experienced this before, or if this surprises you. So, okay, we can get absorbed in that. We can get all caught up and absorbed. I'm just trying to get it all out of our systems in, you know, Joe Biden's statements about student loans on Tuesday evening at the stupid CNN town hall. Okay? Look, I'm 14, 15 years into this thing. Let me tell you the names of the presidents since then that have done anything to reduce the predatory, unsustainable burden of student loan debt. And that's it. Those are the only ones. Nobody has. No one. So I'm not going to sit here and spend all my time or my day. This will be for the most part, the end of it for me. I think it was worth one quick, early live stream to just sort of put this out there. Let's get it out of our systems, folks, because look, what you saw, if you listen to this now or if you saw it live during the town hall, is the consummate professional politician applying his craft. It might sound like I'm giving him more credit than he deserves, but the truth of the matter is, who is more of a consummate politician than Joe Biden? For the most part, as far as I know, his entire political life has been spent in public office. So, and I'm not aware that he has any particularly remarkable talents. So there's that. Okay, so, but what was he doing? I mean, as far as being a politician is concerned, don't underestimate Joe Biden's political sensibilities, and because that is an area where he probably actually does excel. You know, he may not always look as smooth and as polished as, say, Obama and some others, but he knows what he's saying, and he has a reason for saying it. I'm going to just sum it up real quickly. There were probably two essential groups of folks, subgroups that you could define in general that Joe Biden was addressing during that town hall. One of them, and very importantly to him, were the people that he believes are currently holding the strongest position in helping him to maintain power and achieve his own objectives. Okay? So he wants to send them a message. He wants to make it clear. I hear you guys don't want me to mess around with this debt. I would definitely be a little concerned about losing your support. So, I'm going to be very clear tonight about my intentions, which is basically to do nothing. Now, simultaneously, there's another message, whether it's intentional or not. And guess who that message is being crafted for? Us. Me and all you guys. And the message isn't the one that you take at face value. No, I'm not going to do this. My kids went to college and they was student loan debt, and so I know exactly what this all feels like and what's going on. We could just volunteer down at the car wash and pay the whole thing off in half an hour, 20 minutes, and be done with it. No. The message he was sending is, I know you're out there. I know there's a lot of you. And I know this is a really this is a real monstrosity. I know that. This is what Joe Biden is telling you. But here's what else he's telling you. I'm not afraid of you. I'm not afraid of 45 million borrowers who have been summarily, and for all intents and purposes, financially raped by a predatory and corrupt system that was constructed under the direction of wealthy, well-paid lobbyists by our own United States legislature. Okay? So what he's saying is, I don't believe that as much of an incredible, catastrophic, horror this is that we have, put upon these people. I don't really believe that they are strong enough politically to cause me any real issues, to cause me any real problems. I think I can weather whatever it is that they've done. I don't see any evidence. And you got to understand, this conversation was out there for a while before he decided to come out on Tuesday night. Why at that point, I'm not entirely certain, but it doesn't matter. But it was calculated. He certainly gave some much stronger indications during his campaign that he would be open to and willing to execute much more significant steps towards this dealing with this debt. So I would venture to say this was a change in position, and he wasn't completely willy-nilly about it. I mean, his responses and the content were complete idiocy. But I could tell that he was being attentive to this topic because there were people who he wanted to make sure heard this message. And guess what, folks? It wasn't us. But in providing a message to them, the message to us is obvious. And we can spend every day for the next 300 years posting our disdain for Joe Biden and what a jerk Joe Biden is and how Joe Biden screwed us. Or we could say it about Donald Trump, or we could say it about Barack Obama, or we could say it about George W. Bush, or we could say it about Bill Clinton. Take your pick, because every single one of those names I just mentioned have been in a position to, go back to as far as Clinton or Bush. I mean, they could have nipped this thing practically in the butt. So here's the reality. And you're going to have to really listen hard to this. You're going to have to accept this reality or not. But it is the reality. What Joe Biden told us Tuesday night is that the way the political winds blow are the way that I will go. And he ain't feeling it from us. He knows we're here. He knows student loan justice is here. But he's not impressed, folks. He's not impressed. And you know what? if you consider the fact that the numbers of sheer volume of people who are caught in being squeezed in this horrific nightmare of a financial trap, I don't blame him. I mean, is he wrong? Yeah. On every moral and ethical basis that I can possibly think of, he's fantastically wrong. We know that. But I say this a lot. Politicians don't do the right thing because it's the right thing. They don't do anything because whether it's the right thing or the wrong thing. They do it because it is based upon the way the political wind is blowing, is the way they are going. There's only one response that we can possibly consider that would in any way, shape, or form. This isn't the end, the final round. The war has not ended, folks. Not by a long shot. Not even close. In fact, in spite of any disappointment you may have experienced based on the Joe Biden's statements on Tuesday evening, I look at that as something a little different. I mean, if that's not getting you pissed, if that's not getting people incensed, because there's two ways people can go when you hear this. Because I know, hey, some people get their hopes up. Some people even went and voted for Joe Biden because they believed him. They believed that he would take significant steps towards relieving the horror this problem has put on all of you. So some kind of a really strong political wind came along, as it often seems to happen where student lending is concerned. And he made it pretty clear that, at least as of that evening, Tuesday, the 16th of February, he wasn't on board. He wasn't going to honor some of the promises he made during his campaign, and he wasn't going to help us, period. I mean, there was nothing in there. There was no real proposal in all of the dribble that he spewed that spelled any kind of concrete or tangible solutions to this problem. If anything, he probably just offered to continue to let it fester and worsen. However, a funny thing about politicians, they're not loyal people. They very rarely are loyal people. They blow with the wind. And guess what kind of wind 45 million people would be capable of producing? Look, I'm not saying that I think that every single person with a student loan, all 45 or 50 million, are going to join hands and circle the globe and sing Hallelujah together. But we have to do far, far better and far more than we've been doing. We have to turn it up, and that means like now. So I don't know how many people are going to see this live stream, and I hope it'll be a little more than what we usually get. And I do know that many of the people who watch this live stream are folks who already are contributing as best as they can their time or their other resources towards this group. But there are a boatload of people out there that are still spectators, and others, millions, that don't even know what hit them yet with their student loans. They know things are messed up, but they're still sitting there thinking that they somehow engaged in some malfeasance themselves. And they're afraid to say anything. And they don't hear anything from us because we don't say, nobody talk. People with student loans don't talk to anybody, including each other. It has to stop. It has to stop. This is simply a speed bump, a pothole. That's all it is. And it doesn't deserve any more time in terms of saying whether I like Joe Biden, I don't like Joe Biden. Joe Biden's a liar. Joe Biden is, farts in the bathtub and eats the bubbles. You'd have better success with this than just going and playing pickup sticks with your butt cheeks, folks. And if you're like me and you have a kind of a visual mind, you just kind of went, ooh, I wish he hadn't said that. So I'm not going to blame Joe Biden. How's that grab you? You can, if you want to. But who am I going to blame? Where am I going to point the finger? Right here. I'll point it right at myself. And guess who else I'm going to point it at? I'm going to point it at you too. And you know who you are when I pointed that finger. If you're out there and you say, hey, wait a minute, Ed, this is so-and-so. I'm doing a lot of it. I know that. Don't worry. People who know who, you know what you're doing and not doing. But if you really want to reap the benefits that this group has the potential of obtaining, then you're going to have to contribute. Sometimes we ask for a little bit of money, but more than money, we need your time. People start to say again, well, we need to march en masse on the Capitol, or we need to have a million borrower sit-in someplace, or blah. Look, the way things are going right now, we're lucky if we can get 20 people and a cat with a chronic skin condition together all at one time, in one place. We are looking at, and it has been posted on our Facebook page, a little bit of information of really stepping up our game. And we have the blueprints, but we need the people. There are just certain activities you just simply don't engage in unless or until you have made a particular threshold of numbers of people. Because you can go, there's a difference between having 10 people standing outside a Market Basket or a Kruger's or someplace, with some homemade signs, which sometimes, quite frankly, is admirable, and other times it looks kind of foolish to some people. If they're looking for a reason to dismiss you, they will. There's a big difference between that and, say, 20,000 people showing up at Boston Harbor, maybe on 4th of July, and setting fire to their student loan papers. And maybe hanging around for a while, maybe causing a little bit of chaos, maybe gumming up some of the flow of traffic a little bit. Maybe, I don't and I will not preach violence. But I will, as many of our forefathers would have absolutely supported, I am willing to, hey, if I have to spend the night in jail for some civil disobedience, so be it. Consider it an honor. Consider it a badge. That's the kind of fight this is. We can win this fight, and we can win it politically. We have the muscle. We need to pull it together. It started with one guy. It started in 2005 or 2006. I always forget. For me, it started in 2006 when I met Alan Collins through the TV set on a 60 Minutes episode. Newsflash, 60 Minutes didn't just call Alan Collins out of the clear blue sky and say, hey, are you somebody with student loan debt? Hey, why don't you do a whole bunch of investigation into what's going on there, and we'll do a Come on. They did it because Alan called them and put the pressure on and pressed the right buttons and said the right things and was persistent and convinced the producer at CBS to do a feature story on 60 Minutes, quite arguably likely the premier and most watched news magazine on television. Folks, every single one person who jumps off the bench and into the game and starts putting their fears, doubts, and insecurities behind them and fighting the same way you would if they screwed up your order at a Wendy's. We'll be done with this in a month or two. We can all go home. We can all go back to our lives more financially whole than we were when we started. With being able to sleep at night knowing that those of us with kids, even grandchildren, are not going to be victims like we were. You can stop being a victim right now by just getting up and begin to take on some of the little projects that we put out there. But I'm putting it out there to you. If there are enough people out there that are willing to put some larger actions together, I need evidence of that. We need evidence. I mean, yeah, I would get people a voice here and there. Hey, let's get like 9 billion people and throw water balloons at them. Yeah, great. I would do that. I'd actually throw water balloons. What the hell? But folks, you need to show up. People need to be there. We've had events, we've had activities. That's actually gone pretty well with relatively small groups of people. But that's not going to get the job done. That just keeps the light on. That keeps us on the map. That keeps us on the radar. So, take it from me. Fuck Joe Biden. Whatever he has had to say Tuesday night or anything prior to that, good, bad, or indifferent, none of it means anything until this thing has been resolved to the fullest possible extent. It's all talk. And unfortunately, as far as Joe Biden and the powers who be are concerned, all we are is a bunch of talk. There's a few hundred of us out here, who stir things up and get some traction every now and then. That doesn't scare them. Starting to get a 10th or a 20th of our overall cohort group together terrifies them. That is the worst nightmare they could possibly face. Please spread the petition. Please take the link to the petition and spread it to as many places as it can be posted to. Please do it every day. I don't have the energy or the words anymore to convince you, if you're not already convinced, how valuable that petition is to us and how many reasons that it's incredibly valuable to us. We're an actual grassroots people's organization. We're not some well-oiled, corporately financed, brick-and-mortar bullshit AstroTurf group. We depend on actions from individuals, small groups, and our group as a whole to further our cause. And if we don't have the numbers, then we aren't going to make the grade. You make a decision. Should you live in the discomfort you're in now, or get out of that discomfort zone into a new little bit uncomfortable place that's going to take you to where you need to get? So I went a lot longer than I expected to, and I hope that it was worth it. I hope that enough people will see this to start to draw together some conclusions, that this is not about blaming Joe Biden or Liz Warren or the Republicans or anybody else. This ends when enough of us say it ends. Not sooner and not later. And everything always seems far away until suddenly it's right in front of you. We are so much closer than I think people realize. It's almost frightening. And the only thing stopping me and you from having this portion of our financial lives restored could very possibly be me and you. I'm Ed McKinley. I'm in Massachusetts. I hope some people will put up some feedback about what I've had to say today. But I'd like to, more than anything else, like to hear from people is no more. I don't really want to hear any more bashing about Joe Biden. I'm not trying to protect Joe Biden. I think that should be obvious if you watched my presentation. I'm just saying that it's all bullshit. The only thing that matters is what we do. And if we do what we need to do, and enough of us do it, we do it enough times, no other result other than the one we are looking for is possible. So that's it. I'm Ed McKinley. This is StudentLoanJustice.org live stream, Thursday evening, 18th of February, 2021. There's a lot else going on out there. Texas folks are getting just clobbered with cold and ice and stuff. If that's you, I just hope that you find some relief quickly. Pandemic and other things. I hope people are able to manage and get through whatever challenges you have related to these things. But know this is one big weight that we can take off our shoulders. We have the power and the ability to end this. But we have to pull our shit together, or it's not going to happen. Good night, everyone, and I'll be back next week.